What it do, good people, man? It's your boy DeMarcus back with the life of a multifacet. And, we keeping this thing going. As far as for my podcast, I haven't told but like two or three friends, and I wouldn't even say they're the closer friends, right? I've just been keeping it low key and just creating a platform for myself where I can talk about different things and more so grow over time and really have a space to where I can just get into the zone. A lot of times when we're trying to think about a process, even though if we may do it on our time, we can be so caught up into all the things going on in the world, social media, trying to keep up with other people. And even if we can be the strongest person ever, because of those distractions or things in front of us, sometimes it can be hard just to stay on the path that we're trying to get to. And again, when it comes to starting things, a lot of times we can just delay it, or we can feel as if what we're trying to do is just not enough because we're just seeing whatever other people got going on. We're trying to compete with that, behind closed doors or behind the scenes, when in reality it shouldn't be like that. So I just want to keep doing this and want to get into the repetition, because for myself, as I continue to, get my finances up, continue to level up, I really want to be able to create a doper platform. Like I want to have, the cameras and stuff going where I'm talking about different topics on a, more high def level. And yeah, just keeping the conversations like this going. So I think that these type of platforms that we can create for ourselves are so dope. And the biggest reason for me is that you can have something to look back on. As I continue to grow as an individual, I would still say a young adult, even though I'm about to be 29 in a few months. But when we think about adult life and just we think about being old, you're really not old. I would say maybe till you're like 60, because you're going to have youthful parts of you. And I'm not necessarily talking about personality. I'm just talking about the way that your body is forming, the way that you experiences through life. Like there's just so many parts of us that make us youthful. And I'm a person where I enjoy that so much. Like I don't want to feel like I'm getting old ever, honestly. So I want to make sure I'm keeping that youthful spirit. But getting back to it, what I was saying is that it's important for you to be able to have, in a sense, a track record of your mentality, where you're at, how are you having conversations? How is your life going? And that can be in any form. Journaling, that can be in, even in your videos and photos. If you save it into your camera rolls, whether that's Snapchat or whatever, you can still have something to look back to. So it's important to be able to create videos and be able to talk about topics that are relative to your life and ways in which you move. Because if you're just living life just to live life, if you're just, hey, I'm having fun, but I'm not able to really talk about things that I'm experiencing or how I feel, then at the end of the day, you're living in other people's shadows. You're just living to live, or you're living in like a nuanced type of world. So you want to be able to have conversations with yourself. You want to take your phone out and record sometime just so you can see, hey, this is where I'm at. So how can you see how to get better if you're not seeing how you're actually putting things into action? But that's 3.5 minutes that I'm already into this episode. But what I really wanted to talk about today on today's episode, again, shout out to the people that will see this in the future, because I know right now I only have a few people that I've told about this. And so at the end of the day, my goal is to be able to continue creating these type of videos. So when people ask me, hey, when are you going to have the podcast? They can go back to, tons of videos and things to look at. And that's just going to create a doper audience. But for today's topic, I wanted to talk about fasting. And the reason I want to talk about fasting is because for myself, I'm currently on a fast. And when I think about fasting, it's not something that I've just now started. It's something that I've pushed myself to do a lot in my 20s. And I would say when it came to fasting, this is probably something that I started, I want to say around, I said in the YouTube video around like 2016, 2017. It might have even been a little bit before that. I'll probably say like reading into it, probably 2015, like just kind of looking at some things and researching. But as far as actually making it happen, around that 2016, close to 2017. So actually probably like early 2016. And when I think about it, one of the times where I truly locked in and lost weight was around early 2016 before I went on spring break to Cancun. And so when we think about fasting in itself, fasting is something that is truly great for the body, but something that's not really talked about enough. And I'll say it's not talked about enough because of the state of the world. When we think about food, when we think about medicine, when we think about surviving, a lot of time like food and drink is the biggest thing that's talked about. And when we think about sickness and everything, the first thing that people will push on you is going to the doctor. Now, let me put this out there. I don't think that going to the doctor is bad. Like, I'm someone over the years that is pro going to the doctor, but it depends on what you're going for. Now, a lot of times when we think about having like a regular cold, allergies, sickness and stuff like that, it depends on what it is, but we may not necessarily need to go to the doctor. Now, I will say my parents are big on, hey, go to the doctor so you can see that what you have, it may be something more than you think. And that has given me a good perspective, because at the end of the day, I can go to the doctor, get a checkup as long as I have insurance and everything. And if I don't want the medication, I don't have to take the medication. So that's like my thought process. And if they're telling me, hey, you know what, like it's just, your sinuses and things like that. Well, I know that there's probably other remedies and things that I can do to be able to relieve that. But I don't necessarily have to take the medication or things that are prescribed. And nowadays, we even have the research that we can do on our own to see, does this really make sense? What's crazy is like COVID was technically COVID is still going on, but during the COVID period when it was first introduced, none of the doctors knew what this was. It was something shocking to the world and something new for everybody. And when new diseases or new types of illnesses and things come about, it's going to be hard for any doctor to be able to get on it super quick. It's going to take years for them to truly know how to be able to handle it. And when I think back to it, it's crazy because, again, you don't know at the time, but I remember when I first had COVID, because I have asthma, I'm someone where it's going to affect me a lot more. Now, my asthma is not anywhere close to where it used to be when I was young. I really don't even have asthma problems that bad for real until it's like maybe summertime, and if I get out into the like cut grass, or if it's super humid. But still, like the way that I've been like working on my body, I don't really have problems like that anymore. But at the time when I had COVID, it was something that was just uncontrollable. And I remember like how it made my body feel. Like when I first got it, I was like, why is my body so cold? And it felt like I was fasting, but like times two. I'm like, I keep putting heat on my body and nothing's changing. I keep putting food into my system, nothing changing. And I remember when I was downstairs in my in the basement back home, I tried to walk up the stairs, dog, and I'm literally having to hold on to this rail because I'm like, I don't have any energy. Like, I've never felt like this in my life. And I remember going upstairs and I was in tears because I'm like, man, I keep coughing and everything as well. Like, I've never coughed this much, I felt like. And I just didn't know because it just felt like my body was kind of shutting down. And I'm just like, dog, like, even to my parents, like, what do I do? And so my dad, he had some cough medicine when he previously was sick with it. Was pretty strong. And so what I would do is I would take some of that, and then I would also take my inhaler, but it would only do something temporarily. And for your inhaler, you don't want to keep taking that like too much, because then it can like it can mess things up if you're overcompensating for your asthma. So I was like, man, Dad, I got to go to the hospital. So get to the hospital, and that whole ride there was just, it sucked. Like, good thing back home, the hospital's probably like, less than 5 minutes away from my crib. But man, that ride just sucks because I keep coughing, and then it's just nothing's going away, and I feel like my lungs are collapsing. So the crazy thing is, when I get to the hospital, I'm sitting in the waiting room probably for like a good couple hours. I end up calling my boys because this COVID stuff new, and I'm a person where like I'm open and vulnerable, and I push myself to be like that over time because I'm like, this is real life that you're living. Ain't no reason to hold this in. And so I call some of my boys, and then like I'm over here in tears on the phone because I just don't know. Like, I'm a person where I'm gonna thug it out. My friends know that, when it comes to like cuts and sores and stuff like that, I've had to thug it out a lot of times, and I'm a person where like a lot of my friends and family see me as the tough person, but in this moment I'm like, I just don't know, because of the state of the world, and then how I was feeling, it was just different. So I remember when I finally got called back, and then I went to and went into the room that they had me assigned for. So I'm sitting there, and they still didn't even get to me, probably for like another 45 minutes. So I'm like, dog, what the hell? Like, I'm sitting here struggling, like, what is going on? So I remember they had me do one of the COVID tests. And so, obviously it came back that I had COVID. And so when I finished up, and this is at the time when, again, COVID first happened, bruh, why did they just give me Tylenol to cure everything? And so, again, obviously they're not going to know how to cure this because it was just started at that time. But to go through all that, to sit in that daggone room and sit on the bed just for them to give me the same dose of Tylenol that I could have got at the store. But again, you just don't know. And so, and they also too, I think they gave me like a breathing machine, which was super, super helpful. So they just told me that over time, like, I would just have to continue to take the Tylenol for multiple days, and then COVID would be like relieved by itself. So I can't act as if the breathing machine didn't do, its number there for a bit. But really, they told me as far as longevity for COVID, all I would have to do is keep taking my inhaler and then take the Tylenol that I can just get from the store. And I'm like, bro, this is crazy. Like, even with the breathing machine, I didn't have one because my asthma wasn't like consistently that bad. But like, these are things that you could really just have at home. People have breathing machines for asthma and for their lungs. So you're telling me all this stuff I really truly didn't have to come to the hospital for. And so I share that to say that that's a moment where you have to obviously go and get checked out. This is something with your body. This is something that you don't know what the state of the conditions are, because again, the world doesn't know what the state of the conditions are. So it's good to get checked. Now, for the real conversation about fasting, there's a lot of ways in which we can actually heal our bodies where we truly don't know about. And as I said in the previous video, we have to really look into the resources that we have, and more importantly, look into how we can enhance the lives of ourselves. I'm someone that, I love caring about people around me. I'm someone that will ride for a lot of people, but something that's held me back, a little bit, is caring too much for other people, hoping that they'll hear something or want to change something about themselves or wanting to better themselves, and they don't do it, and I'm feeling disappointed, or I'm feeling as if like the information I gave them they don't care about. And so what I had to do is just start learning things for myself and start to implement those things, and fasting was one of them. So a lot of times for our elders, when it comes to fasting, when it comes for going a couple of days or a day without food, water, or whatever, they can be totally against that. You know why? Because throughout their childhoods and adulthoods, they're so used to eating food, they're so used to consuming sugar and all these other things, that going any time without food or water, they're so not used to it, especially in the South, that whenever they hear, especially with the types of foods and things that are made there, so they go so long with hearing that, oh, this is what you're supposed to do, these are different remedies, that they may have never even tried to go a certain period of time without food and drink. And what's even more wild is that, especially for a lot of folks, that are elders, that are spiritual, because there's so many spiritual folks, especially in the South, a lot of them, as spiritual as they talk, they don't even realize how much it talks about fasting in the Bible. And their elders and our ancestors, they used to fast back in their time. And there's so many different ways to fast. But what happens is that over time, you just see the world for what it is. Like, you just see the information that's provided to you on the news. You're just so used to the people older than you doing these same type of things. They're kind of just going about ways in which they're thinking they should move, or they're just kind of like being, in a sense, a victim to the systems. And so over time, they're not willing to make those changes, because society and the media is telling them, if you don't eat food or you don't drink water, you're going to die. And that's crazy, because if you think about when you're doing a fast, most of your body is made up of water. And so if I go 72 hours without drinking any type of water, I'm not going to die just because of that. Like, your body is actually going to clean itself out. You'll probably be more prone to pass away if you're eating a lot of food continuously over that period of time. One, because of inflammation, and because your bladder, your esophagus, immune system, and all that's going to be filled up with food, and your body's going to overwork to try to break down those toxins and stuff like that. But These are things that the media has used to try to control us and try to scare us. When you think about the best ways to be able to recover, the best ways is by fasting. Obviously, again, if you have something that's very terminally ill that you have to be able to get over through medication, that's a totally different story. But if we think about a lot of times, even when we are sick, what happens? When we don't have an appetite, there's nothing that can go down in our system to be able to help us out. So what do you have to do? You got to go without eating food. If I don't have an appetite, I'm going to go fast a little bit. The reason being is because our immune system is going to force itself to heal. And so for fasting, it just comes down to you really trying it and you putting yourself in a state to say, you know what, I'm going to challenge my body to see how far that I can go without having to have food and water. Now, the key thing is you got to be someone that is very keen on hydrating yourself. Now, I'm not telling you, if you're somebody that's always used to just drinking sodas and drinking juices and all that type of stuff, fasting, if you're trying to challenge and push yourself, that's going to be a bit tough because your body's not used to hydrating itself and you're not used to hydrating yourself. So the thing that you should work on definitely that I would suggest or recommend is start by doing like a water fast. Start by just hydrating yourself on a level that your body is going to take in what it has the most of, and that's water. Because when you learn to survive just off water, then you're going to realize that, hey, I don't necessarily need as much food as I thought that I did because my body is made up of water, so it's going to be used to taking that in. Yes, we need vitamins and minerals to be able to survive, but to keep your body truly going, water is going to be the biggest thing. You can go multiple days without food. Hell, there's people that have done 30 to 60-day water fast. If you think about it in the Bible, when fasts were done, you're going multiple days without having to have food. But if we want to talk about the earth, there's so many people that have done multiple 30-day and 60-day water fasts. What it comes down to is a mentality. And so if you're someone that is willing to challenge yourself, you will see, I'm telling you, so quickly how a fast will change your life. And for myself, I started off with a water fast. Actually, before that, I would say I started off by just doing dry fast. Dry fast was the first fast that I started off with. And the reason why I started off with dry fast is because I used to eat a shit ton of food. Nowadays I can still eat a good amount, but how much food I used to eat when I was young was crazy. And even going into college a bit, you're told so much, eat until you're full, but you're not realizing that full doesn't mean stuff yourself. And a lot of times, if I'm being truly honest, I would remember that I'd eat so much food that I'm coughing up a lot of food, not throwing up, but coughing up a lot of food because my system isn't digesting it properly. And I used to have a lot of bowel movement problems as a kid because I'm having diarrhea and stuff a good amount of times because I'm not eating my fruits and vegetables. So that's why I've changed my perspective as I've gotten older, especially being someone that cooks, to just incorporate those things, and I love it now. And so my bowel movements, the way my system and stuff is totally changed, and I'm glad that I was able to incorporate these over time. But back to the dry fast. So I would start dry fast because I'm like, hey, let me see if I could actually challenge myself to go without eating food. And you know what? There'll be some days where I'm just like, man, this is smooth. And I would notice that because I would eat so much food one day that I'd have enough food for 1 or 2 days that was in my system. And I realized that the only thing that I was doing to my body was causing it to become inflamed. And so I remember back in high school, I kid you not, even when I was I weighed less than I do now and I was always playing sports and basketball, I used to have bad knee problems. I used to have patella tendonitis on my left knee. And when I think about the foods and stuff that I was always eating pizza rolls, McDonald's, cookies and stuff all the time. So my body was probably truly inflamed. Even though I can get up and down the court and stuff, I don't know if I was even going to be destined to be in the best shape as a young kid because I didn't have the proper training to know how to be able to prep myself for the seasons, nor did I know how to eat properly, and did I know that those things would be truly beneficial for myself at that time. So when it came to dry fasting, I realized this is okay. I'm gonna be good not having as much food. And so what I had to realize for myself early on as well, I would do things like dry fasting, but I had to realize that me explaining it to other people, they're not necessarily going to understand because they're going to think I'm crazy. They're going to think that I'm harming myself. And for anybody that may be experiencing anorexia or maybe experiencing eating disorders, definitely sending love and positive energy out to those folks, because that's something real. Like if you're having someone that struggles with like depression or anxiety and stuff like that, those are real things. And so definitely don't want to put myself in that same type of category at all, because those people go through real life experiences. But when it came to what was I talking about? Yeah, when it comes to the fasting, a lot of times people will associate you not eating food and doing that with, hey, there must be something going on wrong with you. And we have to realize that the way in which we speak to our mind, the way in which we approach a situation is how that's going to be. Now, if I'm approaching a situation like that, stressed out, going through it, then it's going to be harmful for my body, because it's already in a state of defeat, and it's already in a state of, being able to push it into I would say, a deficiency. Now, if I'm someone that's like, hey, I'm doing good, I'm training my mind, I'm meditating and doing all that, but I just want to remove myself, then it's different, because I've trained my mind and put it into a certain type of state. Same way people do a spiritual fast. Like if you go into a spiritual fast, you may be pressed out and just life is just in shambles. It may not help you as much that if I'm going ahead and prepping my body in the right way, even if I'm going through something, if I'm hydrating myself correctly, if I'm prepping myself right, if I go into a spiritual fast, then the healing can come through the spirit, but I've got to make sure I'm doing my part and not just relying on that to get me through. And so when I would explain to people about the dry fast, start off with my parents, and then I would talk to friends and stuff, people just think I'm crazy, especially my parents, because they're like, oh, there's no way you can go without eating. Then I would tell friends about it, and they would just be like, nah, man, that sounds crazy. Like, everything good? Like, there's no way. Like, that sounds ridiculous. And so I'm a type of person where when it comes to different things that I do in my life and different ways that I see the world, a lot of times people probably look at me as crazy, and they probably think, what I'm saying is confusing, because I got told this the other day, I'm someone that thinks into the clouds. And I think when I think into the clouds, it's not that what I'm saying may not make sense. It's going to take people time to process it, and I may have to lower the level in which I'm thinking to help other people understand. But a lot of people have told me that they enjoy what I have to say, because it provides depth into a different type of perspective. And I've had to realize for myself that that's probably a reason why I've been frustrated with people at times, because I may be talking or thinking about the world in a way that they may not be able to understand or grasp. So I can't feel like that. So over time, I've had to work on hey, if you feel this type of way, cool, but you can't expect everyone to understand the world in the way that you do. So sometimes in conversations, you ain't got to necessarily dumb it down, but continue to be yourself, but realize that everybody may not get it that quick. And so that came with the fasting as well. I had to realize that whenever I was going through the process of telling friends and family, that they just may not understand. So what do I have to do? I have to be action oriented. I have to be a doer. I can't be someone that's just talking about it let's get it done. Let's challenge ourselves to do a 72-hour fast or 96-hour fast and then get through it. And then when you get to the weight loss, when you get to where your mind and body is clear, then people are going to be like, damn, DeMarcus, I see